Geshe Phuntsok Let me remind every one of ourselves to take a moment and cultivate the highest form of motivation. We call it bodhicitta or altruistic motivation, seeking complete enlightenment for the benefit of all other sentient beings. And with that kind of motivation, we should participate in this Lamrim discourse on the stage of the path leading to enlightenment by Manjushri Lama Tsongkhapa. Allow me to read about a couple of pages from this Lamrim Chemo, volume number 2 in the English translation of this treatise, page 200, to give you the blessing of lineage oral transmission, followed by explanation.
Sola shabi jangzi dang jawa wate de jung se yu jang de je dung cao che wa de debi yong de yi de wa che ba la yang ba me na kha na ma do wa me be che dang yi je ve de wa ta ye ba de be shao co ji co je be je de wa ba de yang de sang la me ngom be ye sang ba je ba shao de na kha je be ge na yo so zo sha yi che re de da la wa ju ba Nime de velange, nima shege de zo yidong, pesoro jobo de lo ma je ba de jong sha de le sara shi sha yi sha nima shi de wa dong ba yi lang je so sang je so je so ro jo da le de la yang jo ba sha he so wa da ye da wa ne zo de zam be lu se me de tu no re shi nge wa su go de da ma na shen de jo ye de che zumbe ba je de ye be je ro ni so ma da yang a zun ri zang yin nga ma li pa ra ta ra so na de zang je sho ye be sho 고마신지 샤라 존주 자마고 데 도녀마 바다지 데나 라라지베 도도와자 알리버라 시나 와시마다 시만데베 대보라 시서 시마데 기체데 요데가마리 소시시나 샤바 고마마보 도발로바 Geshe bo jive shero de de zo de zo lo de de ha zhang tu ye de zo wa cha ba da ha zhang le le ji ba ni ge bang ni chu xian de na re xin gue de na re xin na re wa xi gue de ben de ma hui ye che ba ra ba ra ji ba la che la tang lun ga ma xiong de le we je je xia ba na da to zhong wo ren ba che ma ye ma ji xie so bo de wei xian de jiao se mu zhi wei ran da da bu miu chang bi ran da tang bu so su de ne na sha ba ma le ba du de 天仙的是天有人心里是个别那，是个是的那个是的那个马当心女的心，几位的特别重心的，马吉巴达布西亚说的这做这几位个这什么个说那个也不等的娘。nya me bo de de nya ma ni ma mi ba ji ba ye tun ji me ba da no shu si me do bi yun de ba le de lo ju ba de mo cho je ba ra me do ba ga ye do je je to ye do ba je be zo ju zo lo che ba na zo ju lo lo be do je go be de da de xie ba xiao 这老帮着我朋友组织准备，这边是他叫我呢，他们找到等连续这个用我这个他把你们做了，说这些你们这那你们这那么这。 제바다 제아소바다라베 너 탐문닝바 레 달라곰베 케바네 다당 레거소 제베베 파르르바 제베지 메시 제바랑 소송지 네바 바바 리베 수와 케바바다 수와라 케바 팔로 조바제게 레 조바제 데보 조보니모다 타베베세 니모지 소 세마 마지발로 송제지 송아 怕了你不等就把这个我的把这把钱都把小狗的他他妈呢，你们下这个去把些，你不搞就把你们先些叫我给下个些了超包么样的是那是了，看到么多，去我些个去。 你个我娘不是说你个叫他接我个月些我真的别那别的就能学习我了学吧学吧学习我都年学吧早了你不是说那再学吧能没学吧么不特别适应你没心老说么学吧。 第一个了，你就都没会那个你可能举起嘛，把这就把东西把来讲，运动开起不，我这多年嘛，那个我不做些的不忙别找，忙老送些我都。 去年这个马拉白让给让别都不能，这边就多了吧，这就多了吧，去么那有的东西就吧。大不，这个你们当就他别样个运气别就是我老那这龙那我谁都别就把别空。 龙没是龙有没是把它他妈的对不对？把它这帮啷个就到给别没那么结别特别送小那么严重东，即便他妈的这爸爸那个的有的这龙就是那么即便你说对不对？把它得几面特别送小那么严这个这有的那个些子。 什么现在叫我的现在开叫我的我不路就送的杭州路多城堡的这个这边这边这边冷的一我的，真的我把这送去这边这边人别说我这边就写手， Hongla Tremba Tempe Yu La Yong, Shera Jile Bara Bara, Shawa Shiga Trepe Jimbo Yinji. Tremba Rama de Yu Ji Me To, Shera Ji, Shitabu Shi, Shawa Gwenama Shira Sonogani Shibi. Jungdo Ne, Tanje Dama Chava de Rangi, Kelang, Bebe Doma Nam Ji, Lang Panglang. Panglang Bayin, Bebe Dada, Lava Tremba de Shi, Dena Nyane Zopa, Georgie. Simi lava doba jebe lava jeje deba daba je ne kaya meje no de yudu reje tambo ne mashowa beba dang jala shona yama tema tawa leban ba ne lemba ne tema tawa lemba ne ve Leba ne sei do bebe jebe sega zama meba jiba sega beba beba to bata lawu gwa bo jama tambo lama jama tambo ne apang la maji be temba ba shor do sheba da shona ya mada tembe temba nya bebe se nye dong me go bebe jebe ngaso nye dong ke ko be jebe ngaso 东京为车子买一把，有了结巴了，多个把太阳连着了，天的连太阳连着了，天的对现在中了啦，那边。我估计他了，大把啥么一年呗，老没叫我那了，老姐刚他们把开把贵，准备用的那么几个早晚些把用了。我那年就穷脏了，就把的那云头的没就把这么大那个我今年变了，通的绿了嘛，就是的那的了的那人不没到把绿他的了，头个绿他们这了，头也呗也问句。Madiji ne bora goba tare ni ji jawa sevela o ma jung je le ma de jang ti yo da da nyu de sevela jaba je shungur min ju ru ji be shem bo ju ru be tang bo ne mun ju wa goba da ka la min ju goba da wa ke de shu na ma te ma da de ji je go de Shidara chala tenje ne tu ni lu lava cha ju te ye la ni je na ni be sen lava cha ju she ye ta le che bar ju she so da te sha ge se da ta gon du ka da dire ta gon je lam nyam se le ma ta zong ju zong ga de da尊师的咱们随的个这是适当的来，但这个可是呢，可是就不知所讲，这样子的，对吧？那就明白呢。那me dela yi shewa yi sonum nam ji ta ji mu she so ba tar nga yo ro jung se je jung se nyang ji yo jang dang je sho bi bu ju nong bu so sha ba sha bi bu ju dan da wa che le de wa jung se yo jang de ji dong yi chao xia wa de wi se de we ye de yi de wa jie ba la yang ngom ba me na na 看到么的为车当有一条啊，他也吧，对，错大姐没，大姐我把人养的三了，没我们300几个小伙子，他这里可是休息没几个晒的，他感觉我就可是其他几的就，他不是说什么样子这里呀，你不给接了个大不着，人那个俺们带几的要的，但个俺们的嘛就不接的下着我了哇，现在几天那天天几了呀，因为。 road member de ji shin ya kaliro de ja to war in ta dang do shu do de ni ka ji do ka ji shin ti du de de dung yo mal de wan de de be so the de la ba de ni ka ji do shi gu re si de sam lo ya ja ji gu re si
Gisela read from page 200, volume number 2, the English translation, Lamrin Chemo, to page 204, from the middle of page 200 to 204, to give us the blessing of oral transmission of lineage masters. And now we're back to where we left off last week, and Gisela started to continue his explanation. Um, so we have been dealing with how to cultivate the perfection of joyous perseverance or junju, joyful effort. Sometimes we translate it in the context of cultivating spiritual paths within our mind. And so we have been dealing with favorable conditions that need to be created in order to succeed in cultivating the perfection of joyous perseverance or junju. And we have been talking about the different types of power, if you will. And so those of you who have this text in front of you, in the middle of page 200, what we find stated there is this, that we should not get distracted by the enjoyment of sensual pleasures of samsara, because we become very, it is never satisfying, never enough as we engage and enjoy sensual pleasures. And the example given to illustrate that point is if you like honey, you taste the honey, and there's a honey smeared on the blade of the razor, and out of your attachment to honey, if you start to lick the honey on the razor edge, you might get some enjoyment, but you could get cut by the sharp razors. So we must understand that we have to cultivate a sense of contentment, Geshe, with regard to sensual pleasures. Otherwise, they will never satisfy us. On the other hand, if we make efforts to engage in the Dharma, cultivate Dharma, of course, we are going to face a lot of difficulties and challenges. If we could put up with those obstacles and challenges, it's worth our effort to make, because this kind of perseverance that we cultivate, it will lead us to find a positive outcome. Joyous perseverance leads to positive outcome, whereas just experiencing the sensual pleasures of the samsara, it just leads to more problems, and it's never enough.
This is what the person that the Buddhist social dances that dances Koran because Jelle to do when the Geshe Yungurava. That the was Geshe, the Cheshas and Korea mentioned Madala Bay, Numakashi Goya, Tig Devata in the Dungan, the Kari Union, Kisan cultures, and there was Geshe, like the Dungan Yamambo Shakura. But then I in the same dig, the Washington Piggy. Was to see you there. In Nika, the object the other in the tip, the cursa. You don't chase which in the bed, that consumer later you go into service, said the Drovina. Nika, the Casante, you told her what in the Sarah Mongolia, and so the years on the pain, but I'm a pancreas. She thought that the Zondus and the church in the teller the day, Yangachi, Yomaskura. In the Jibu Devati and the so the Yams line, they were cemetery. She said, tell ya, Jibu Yomu, Geshe Yomori. She said, Tidegia, Taring to Senanja, and the Shuk Shejung, Jibu Yaglu, Cheval Tene. In the said de la Picali, Togo to the Kangin of the Jaguina. In the thing, they were terrible with Tito, and the college jobs Togudes and so Simshu Javasura.
In other words, that if we get caught up with the pleasures and enjoyments of just this lifetime, that is akin to being attached to honey smeared on the sharp, blades of a razor. Yes, there is some kind of enjoyment, but it's a very momentary kind of a pleasure and enjoyment. But should things go wrong, the sharp blade can cut our tongue, very deeply, and then we are going to pay much more price here, because as we can see, the suffering could continue, many days. We have to go to the medical treatment, so it's really not worth to look at the honey on the razor edge, because when we do the cost-benefit analysis, cost is much more and benefit is tiny beanie, thing. So it's not worth it. And so being so much caught up with this lifetime is really similar to that. We have a momentary kind of happiness, pleasure, but then in the process of doing that, we might undermine the law of karmic action and result. We end up creating a lot of negativities and doing the wrong thing because we kind of disregard it, or we think, I don't care, whatever the attitude is. So all of these things will bite us, so to speak, in the sense that this will lead us into unfortunate states of rebirth in the future lives, and then, samsara keeps going round and round, and which is not worth it. So we should kind of give a long-term perspective. Yes, as I engage in spirituality, I do face difficulties and challenges, but it's worthwhile for me to face up with these challenges because once you cultivate Dharma, you don't have to doubt about the outcomes because you are going to get positive outcomes, right? We don't have to worry about, is Dharma going to bring some strange outcomes? No. It will only bring positive outcomes, and there's no risk involved in it, and in the practicing Dharma, cultivating. And in the long run, it will yield much more beneficial outcomes. So thinking along this line, considering these matters, doing the cost-benefit analysis of things, then we should boost up our spirit, our confidence level. Yes, I can, and I must, engage in Dharma and cultivate joyous perseverance.
this is that being on the because that's the Karsa. To the so Marata song in the Singale, Tangi in a lake, in the Karina, or Pitcher facial, sounds of Gangim, what I'm very Kangite, Maria. She did the that showed on some of them, there's the Calico, and that said it as Kangit retina, and it be service you order. In the contributed said, they'll be fair, Matia, you sort of Jivutaka Rami Hakumara. That tell a detail like Pecali Jackana. Only just and do it low maybe so the Kalijatan. That's something, and it is so that Kangin of the summer tani. And the Kangin did a javelin, Dikan Canadian, Queen Jibu to show in the there's simply Yado, Penguins are all. So again, Kali Pijita Kangit, Chamber, Yungma, Tejungroa, got him some of them.
So even as we keep ourselves really busy to fulfill the mundane affairs of life, the mundane goals, that I should have the basic necessities of life, right? I should have enough food to eat, I should have a roof over my head, and then I should have this, and I should have that. And then more than that, we started saying, I want to be rich and famous. I want to be bold and beautiful. He didn't say that, just a footnote, I've had that. But all of those things, we know it takes so much of our time, resource, and energy. And there's no guarantee that you are going to be, rich, beautiful, famous, and all of that. You might not as well, But let's say you succeed in, that mundane affairs of life. It's going to be a very temporary thing, And so even to fulfill the mundane goals of life, we have to go through so much in life, ups and downs, and the difficulties. Nothing is guaranteed here. On the other hand, if we do the comparative study, analysis, so to speak, with the Dharma, yes, there are challenges and difficulties, but if we could put up with them, the outcome is guaranteed, right? Dharma will never lead to some strange, weird, mixed outcomes or negativity. It just leads to positive outcomes. And so therefore, we should make our proper choice. What is here that I should be doing? Develop our confidence to be able to do this. So the point we are trying to make here is we really need to prepare our mind, right, to engage in Dharma, right? We don't think it's going to be smooth sailing, it's just going to be happy, right? No. Yes, there are going to be, obstacles on the way, stumbling blocks, whatever, but we are prepared. We said, yes, I'm ready to face the challenge and face it off, and I'm going to continue, right? So when we prepare our mindset in that way, then as we face the challenge, it will be easier to deal with it.
가지 가다냐 애니 배가 장거이나 다 같이 그 추억도 성모 가졌다는 때 동갈 비기 레들 주갈 쪼아 숙시 먹어리스 인 쪼아 숙시 뭐디 예나 인 무시 야고 용거로 와
No.
다 당번에 체육 서비스 다 근데 감동 동계도 디피지 데려 와다 어머 뭐시 인 다지 뭐도 하게라요 와 제가 때때 돈은 동게 농가 농도도 시대 가신디 시작하고 다 작정이 체서 도도 가지야 대신 애는 휴리가 말이라고 그래서 당복은 내가 되지도 가다 단단한데 배서 주가 나시 조금 시험보지나 애는 것이 가르치기나 검자당가 아장기나 다 가르치기나 코피 가보건 기타 연구로 와 어디 연구를 해서 보자.
So as we talked about this before, that we're preparing our mind, boost of our confidence level, and try to engage in whatever practice we do happily and joyfully. Okay? And so that's important. So what kind of joy are we talking about? So it is illustrated by a classic metaphor here. So this must be in India, where the weather can get very hot, and poor elephants get scorched by this heat. And when an elephant sees this beautiful lotus pond, right, looks like refreshing and cool, likes to plunge into it, because there's so much happiness and, it's so cool. The elephant can say that too, or feel it. So like that kind of delightfulness, joyfulness we should have as we engage in any kind of practice that we do, whether you are doing your meditation or whether you are doing your daily recitation of the mantras, or whatever your practice is, set your mind that you are going to do it happily, because that motivation is very important. So as you engage in the actual practice, your practice is sustained by the joyfulness, isn't it? Otherwise, it might become an obligation, right? We can just speak for ourselves, or consider our own personal matters. We have taken so many tantric empowerments. Tantric empowerments come with a lot of commitments, And so now we think, oh my gosh, I have to do this sadhana, liturgy, or that one. And so at the end of the day, because that's, oftentimes we do, we feel like, okay, I have to do this, because I met the commitment, I took the initiation, now, well, I have no other choice, I have to do it. So it becomes kind of a routine thing, like we're going through the motion. There's no happiness. It's the motion thing. I have to go through the motion of doing the sadhana because I said I will. So that's not a quality practice, right? So we want to set our minds, whatever our sadhana practice, meditation, recitation, prayer, whatever, but we do it happily, like I want to do it, not like somebody obligated me to do it, or somebody said, I'm watching over your head, like do it. No. So this is important. So we should be like that elephant, scorched by the sun, and want to happily plunge into the lotus pond and enjoy the refreshing and coolness of that, the Dharma.
어디서 다들 책직비래 데려도 어디 다 당법에는 가가지고 있는 당법에게 당하면서 강가지고 먹으면서 당법은 가시 쪼기 주야 삼모 스페이스 요마르와 제대로면서 다들 삼모 용야 더 당기셔야 되게 유전도 삼모 당내려와 세대를 깔리 가대 자기미 딘지우 가대이미 다 쉬어도 깔리는 딘지부터 배 문에 전사기 세명에 대해서 어디에 괜히 삼모 당 강지 간다게 딱 문에 전사에 제 레가티베 시드베 세면 갈라란도 용야 바데 인 장부르서 거다 가지 기제 뭐 상도 저와 가시 또 희주야 상도 맞게 버디 장세도와
So the point that's emphasized here is, of course, it may not automatically come to us. Like, wow, I'm in Dharma and study and practice. I should be happy, do it. It requires mind training, And so therefore, as we have talked about this, based upon rational thinking, rationality, right? We said, okay, I have to live this life. What are the difficulties and challenges I have to do to manage my mundane affairs of the life? And how many times I fail and have a headache and crisis thing, but yet I have to do it, On the other hand, here is a situation where I can do practice, And what does it involve? Yes, it involves challenges and difficulties, but what is the risk here? Do the cost-benefit analysis. What's the risk? What's the gain, right? That's the rational thinking, right? I want benefit and I want profit. And what am I going to get out of here? And so when we do that rationally, as a rational human being and thinking, then we will be able to figure out that it's much more beneficial to engage in the Dharma and face the challenges because it will yield positive outcomes. So until we're able to cultivate the sense of joy, sustain it, we have to do that thinking, you know. It may not automatically come like, okay, joyful, joyful. No, just have to cultivate it. You know.
어디 다디 다디 가에 봉사야 되거든요.
No.
거기 반주갈 되지. 다들 다다 도에 톱셔야 되지. 도에 톱셔야 돼. 디스걸 강제. 그다 자와도데 배는 다 담보로도 비잔다. 쟤네 출 어디 이제도 레데 이게 이제 미게지로 무슨 지 라네 약보수 어디 따토예나. 이제 대가랑 그 디바셰니 디들야 타르바 탐지시면 상담하다시 디 초고시는 네 말이 수고다. 그래봐. 그 집이 성우기 쌤 이렇게 람길께서는 에 집은 정시 그 드무어듯이 야야 빨리야 줘라. 어디 빨리야 디 돈다 될래 다 건지 됐어요. 더에 또.
So with that, we have talked about cultivating or developing the power of joy, kabetop in Tibetan. And so now on top of page 201, we have the power of relinquishment, or I call it the power of relaxation, telbetop. You know, telba means just, you know, rest, relax, because that's important. And so what we're really talking about here is, as Geshe explained, that let's say, you know, through our own thinking and water preparation, you know, we develop a certain kind of an understanding and faith in the infallible working of law of karma and its outcomes. And then we said, okay, I want to at least try to engage in some practice. So we abide by the basic ethics of refraining from or abandoning the 10 negativities of body, speech, and mind, right? Now we could become very complacent with it. You know what? I'm happy. You know, this is good, right? It fits me, and I'm. So when it comes to Dharma practice, we should not be, you know, complacent and contented with this is all I need and this is all I'm going to do, right? We really have to see the whole, as we said, think about the complete structure of the path, right? So once we start with the initial level practice, small scope practice, and once we do that, we say, you know what? Okay, now I want to advance further. We engage in the paths common with the intermediate level practice, and then we further, right? So that's very important. And as we think about these things, so the power of relaxation or the relinquishment, you know, or telbetop in Tibetan is important, you know.
어디서 다가서 텔트리셔 더레도네 존주자베 루심 두나 두네 시리시 녀와서거데 대다마네 신디 조신 순비 치 존주 존베 바지디 제셔로 니 소마도 존주 잠신 너무 리과르 타르소나 지단지 메초 초시 메샤와 고마 아시라 시 고마이 샤와라 존주 잠고데 도뇽바탕 제데나 라제동데 도와자 레버시는 심마당시 심만데베 대방샤 해소사 디시디디 다 디노 니여다 더여도 해야 되라 그러나 니마 냠슬라야디 야고 럽니 애니 야 공마 뽀야 잭시 야 야고 말라나 소득 삼디다 그 감데미데시네 애니 비게 사모지 금가시나 야고 뭐 셈 부수 도보로 요네 한테 오즈 히라 자죠 말이스 야 구형을 보시니 바로 샤니 바로 샤니 셈 구형 보시다 가서 레토자 타야데서 남지 इन सांझे यंदे समय जब दिले किता कंजे लोया सिंगदो या दिले संलो तोया योरमान वो दिले ताने इन या लो दिले रे 당기 나기 부도 보면 샤서나 इन 양제 티족신 독신 못이니 시야 내가 돌아야 직시 다 되면 롭신 돌아야 직시 돌아니인데 와
So we are on top of page 201, the power of relinquishment or telbetop in Tibetan. And to relinquish, you know, it has two senses here, as Geshe tried to explain. Number one is that as we engage in practice, whatever our level of practice is, once we have kind of completed it, then we should move to the next one, relinquish, you know, the practice you have done well, and move to the next one. That's one sense of relinquishment here. The other one is where you really need to rest and replenish your energy, right? When we are physically exhausted and cognitively and mentally exhausted and fatigued, then we can't practice. So we have to know when to relax or rest, and then so that we can continue, pick up our energy and continue with our practice. And this is where oftentimes our gurus or lamas advise us that we can take a break from the actual practice, and then we can think about the positive thinking, such as the qualities of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. When we think about their qualities, then that will give us inspiration, isn't it? So this will help us to kind of loosen up, so that we are not uptight and stressed out, and we are fatigued and we are cranky and not that. It's just loosen up. Come on, and so that kind of thinking will help us to loosen up and kind of bring a peace of mind, right? So when our mind is kind of at peace, then it is we could engage in the practice. If our mind is tired and disturbed and fatigued, then we can't do it.
어디 다 거기서 치마데 데베샤시 치마데 게체디스 다 디널이야 아니 그게 로드때 상이 야 보야제다 깔리칸 보야 이기나니 다 치마디 상이 보야디 게셔요 그래서 다 깔리칸 보야디 거 더먹은 소다 깔리마가는 보고 하자요 말하고 뭐는 खु시로 와 다디 중마데 다거 상이 야 보야디 보고 거 먹으나 ini yonde koma togu marwa. Kita cik top so ne antel ya 기분 당부 신고 좀 되는 데는 좀 되는 티바 신고 보여서 좀 rem지 야 보야 돼 시작 계셔 버리스. 팀부터 지금 소기 시대는 ini yonde koma togu marwa. 시대 다 디나 도야 깝도 이나네 심마디다 yonde koma 도야 시대야 공마 보야 돼. 도야 디 계셔야리스. 지금부터 소소 ini 비 kalli masungna ko tholgoya ma mutin sikhan digrawa te kalli sungna ko alasya shire pad khesya mara wati isu.
So the power of relinquishment of developed thought, as we explained, it could be understood at two different levels or in two ways. And number one is that you are doing your practice, you are not exhausted or fatigued, and you have done your practice well, this level of practice, whatever the level is, then you should know that you should relinquish this level practice and move to the next one. The other one is the regular. When we feel tired, we just need to take rest. Take a break. And that seems to be easy to understand. Of these two, a sense of relinquishment, the earlier one is much more important, so that you don't become complacent with your own accomplishment and get stuck at that level, because that's the limitation, right? When we think in terms of the three levels scope of practice, the initial, intermediate, and the advanced. So you start at the initial, and you really do it well. Now you must know that you should advance further, right? Try to engage in the intermediate level. Don't get stuck with that. So that means kind of let go, so to speak, or relinquish the initial level practice and move to the next level. And that's very important. If we don't do that, we will never be able to accomplish the higher qualities and realizations, because we just get stuck and we are just limited here.
어디 더디 갈때 거는 다 되죠. 니는 존중 된데스 하자 뛰는게도 좋아 잡아당. 하자 잡아 제가 빵네 추신디 네 추 인신디 나래 히고 나래 와시고데스 반데 마구제스 바우로와 체바팍바 예와라 초라 탕론가 마숑 딜레제지 체바나 토중 림바르 예르마시 셰소사 어디 인사리 다 거제 디존주 잠베가다 오늘 장상 냠슬렘베 커디는 셈디 비 하저 존주 스페쇼션보 가르사 제세 말에 군단점에 말이지 말에 심하다 디케베다 세로와 니네 세계면 좀 좀 대자들 제 존주 이때만 세야지어와 어디 좀 셰셰 배 윤때 보시고 그랬어 하저 배 쇼자고 니마카이지 다다 페지 고발에 가지 들어가 야 가지 생각들이 빼서 놓지 되는 거
No.
그 고랑 승기를 찍는데 또 되게 이제 누가 따와리 내도야 말아
No, 네.
이제 그 알사기 그러라 진짜 패도 와서 그러라
No.
어쨌든 거기 비밀로 럼버지 따라 찍거라 어디시고 그래서 나로
We are still on page 201 in the middle. So when we cultivate joyous perseverance or junji, we really have to be very skillful in cultivating it. You know, we should not fall into the two extremes, you know, here. And these are, you know, don't be overzealous about this, you know, just overdo it. Like, oh, you know, just like crying up to something, you know, because it's not going to last long, you know. So do not be overzealous and over-enthusiastic and overly, like, you know, overacting sort of thing, you know. That's one extreme. Okay? On the other hand, you know, don't be like kind of, you know, too relaxed, like as if nothing matters here, you know. It's just, that's another extreme. So we really have to be very skillful in cultivating the joyous perseverance, that it, you know, it's the right degree, right intensity, so to speak. The metaphor given here is, we look at the flow of the brooks, the river, right? It constantly flows. It does not rush, you know, it does not stop. I mean, it just flows beautifully, right? So like that, our joyous perseverance has to flow like a river, you know. So that's an important, how should I say, thing to keep in our mind. And Geshe kind of, you know, gives another example of how maybe he observed this at his monastic university. You know, some monks at certain point become too enthusiastic in their study and recitation, right? At night, you know, they stay up whole night, you know, they're reciting or reading or something. But then you can say, how long can you do that? Can you do this, you know, throughout your whole life? But no, at some point, then you just can't do it anymore. So you have to be, in some sense, I don't know, can we use the word moderation, so to speak, very skillful in cultivating the joyous perseverance. So we don't want to have a sort of a, you know, over-enthusiasm is like a sense of novelty. There's something new. I must get it. You know, I must grab it, you know. And then that wears out. The sense of novelty wears out, like, okay, I'm nowhere anywhere. No. So don't be overzealous. Don't be overly relaxed, you know, but be moderate and skillful in cultivating it.
어디서 보다 시는 장 세무집에 란다다 보면 정배 란다 당보 수대니 자과 말에 버디 대신데 수대 유생년 시고시 어디서 거기 세무집에서 돼 다 거기 농가직 명의서로 어딜 다 자과를 람다도 그만도 해도 람다디다 아니 샤기로 가면서 차가스게 시에 유가죠 봐. 어떻게 가게 벌써 벌써 다 샤바 제트나라 콜라키 말와. 다 창배 람다서 상을 샤바시비어 봐. 시에다 람다줘야 되고 유유저여서 이 샤바도 미카세 이미 들으신 그게 탑시도 파 람다도 미카세 이거 락자도 가르고 또 땡땡 시에 시에는 이 테나 이 그 샤바 제트나 신토가 샤고라. 어디 나시고리 소죠.
So before I translate the explanation given about what the Geshe Podova has said, I think I forgot to translate something from the previous explanation, where becoming overzealous, you know, I think it was a great Tibetan master called, I think, Kongtang Rinpoche, who said in a very poetic, beautiful way. You know, unfortunately, I can't render it in English, you know. It's just beauty and profound, so the way he says it. So it is like, you know, somebody wants to be a very erudite scholar of some, and then engage in the study, like overzealous about it, like as if he has no time to eat, no time to pee, no time to sleep, no time, nothing. You know, everything is cut off, right? Regular, I just to learn, I will be a scholar. But that's not going to last and succeed because, you know, so we should not be overzealous and over-enthusiastic like that, you know. That's what the Kongtang Rinpoche advises us. And now to the next explanation given is Geshe Podova gives these examples of how preparation is very important, right, in terms of cultivating a joyous perseverance so that we can sustain our practice and do it joyfully. If we don't prepare it and try to kind of plunge into our practice, it may not work out and we may not succeed. And the examples given is this of, like I think a place called Semunduwa. Maybe there was kind of a bandit, and the people in the locality wanted to kind of chase the bandit. But this area, they have no experience, how to prepare and how to chase the bandit. So you are never going to be able to chase the bandit or the robbers because they are so well experienced. They know where to hide. They know how to run away and everything. On the other hand, in the Changwa is like the northern plains. We are very famously known for the bandits, but locality have also developed expertise about how to group together, how to prepare, and how to chase the bad guys. So they are much more successful. Sometimes they can chase the bad guys and grab them and do that. So we have to be more like the people in the northern plain. Just be prepared. And to do our practice.
that pen hicks suited my David, Chimbe Yodici, Jay, Terry, show you David, Bishop, here songs or that. That the best way in the munition, Hakubata, she goes to go some jazz. The Coca draw the Madev in the Chuck, she draw there's a Joab, she could Johnson than Joab some jazz, and take some young deja, and take some deja. Any big lot of judges on any chicken ladies. So that the best serving the best serving you are. She could in she had to come eat it. Send away or what is you say?
So in the same passage about the Geshe Podova gave another example of maybe this really did happen, or maybe this is just a fictitious example created to make the point. The thing is that it's like a competition between a louse and a flea. Who can get to the finish line first? And so the louse can't leap or jump, it's just a very slow pace. But it can keep on going. Whereas like a flea can do kind of hop, stick, jump there, and then sit forever, right? And then in the end, the louse gets to the destination first, So my footnote, I think I like the rabbit and the turtle example better, actually. So that's the same point. So we want to be like, very consistent and be continuous in our practice, not rush and then hold the practice and then do it again,
Here's a Teta yes, Nyamami Nyamaje Paje, Tinjins, Murbatang. Huxin Mundobe, Jutemba La Letang, Jubanayan, Chojiver Mundebe, Gayu Top Gaging, Toy Top Jizundu Zumlu La Kevena, Zundura Lulambe, Top Gugube said. The Heber shows that the Lulai Top said he is, that the leg of the top Sumdua, the Hedarava. That the head, the garden girls, no, soon do you get some words on the tentative. That Yambo didn't do, and Yamajepai, Twingy, Mubasta, Conjotoba Majepa, Mubas at the garrison, called Yonderton as Gorova, or the Mubase. Muba and then the back of Tony Neraji, Yongorova, or Tisha, Tomo Jugati. That shows in Nuji to Sumaga, Tangi, Toaja, Mendobi, Jutembala, Tembata, Tilla, Giovanna, young, Tojuba, Mendoba, that Gayabon, Jings. That to get Sunday Yabushons and the Toyota, Homa Boy and the Jerava, those Keba, no, Tundu Lulam, top Gay Gobas, that in the top no Midisho, Juniada, any tunjo big Georgia. And somebody shook some bushings on that Tando tell you that top saying that, but on you know, sugar is that. Tambo, that Pending Daniels or the door. That didn't that Midisho Pamni, Fiji on your machine, shook share tango, sugar. So this is that. Tundu Lolam, but Geogavis, a t-shirt was a tell a bunch of points, Tundu Zombie say, Shidacha and Nancy. Tammy Dada Lenji, you know, regal by him. Yumu son Sojashi, Yumu Danam, Jipper. 제바답 제송바다 빼는 타문닝바 레텔 콤베 케바네 드라당 레가라서 제베즈 파룬 좀바 지부지 미시게 런드 서송이 네바 바발루 수르왈 케바당 팔은 좀바 이게 레드바 현디 저거보여 니무다 타베 제 니무지 술 세면 만진발로 송시징 수르와당 팔 님부데네 좀바 니가라 케바샤시네 좀바 샤고데세 그다음에는 니무 차 지게 쉐바 님부가죠 니무 현시기 정 이는 예외 차가시 리초바 양나셈 라 칼마도 셔와시 제베세 이거 냠불소니 제 예조라 제와 가이셔로스 뭐제인자다 간지 단다 탐니레가 라바시세야 들어와 제다 pen 징레다 마루 장인 탐닝 바세나 에는 징레 당가모 레가세나 디징시야 농징시야 들어와 제다 탐닝 바세 베 다마보 탐냥게 되게 에네 탑다 나이시거스 이 섬로 가려서나 에네 비가 갑디에 델파 비게 손은 매버서야다 소설 비네 수이 손 보기 이 소르니 섬로 니도는 쟁고거스 그러와 비 바로 봐 지고 수이 인스게 잡송은 파마서 그 스스로 거와 뭐 뒤치게레스 셰다다 어디브라 이용을라고 해서 너무 손 서르샤요 서르샤서 데레다 벤데브라 가르사 페나다 디르다 짐바드 시부 동가시 지금 시가시나 야 되게 이거 새로운소야 네바 연구회나 그 펜트가요 말와 뭐 됐어 다 간지 내 지를 쉬는 누구는 이제 디페메도 이제 어디 근데 그 거기 코니다 짐바 그 제도 땅 쇼진 새로운 영상은 다 코니 고두서 샤리 계산 맞음으로 와 어디 제가 디 짐바 베땅 와이네 디발리 냠내 현다 마냠 시네 어 가지 해다 네 맞으시네 어디 냠내 해보시고 그랬어 어디 있어요 다디 빼듯한데 탐유레가 나가셔야 돼요 어디 나시시지
So from the bottom of page 201 over to page 202, Geshe read the passages there and explained that as we engage in practice, that a number of things to keep in our mind. Number one, there are lots of unfavorable factors or adverse factors, challenges and difficulties, right? And so we have to face them. The number two, we have to cultivate the favorable factors or antidotes and all of them to be able to counteract the unfavorable factors, And so as we engage in our practice, really we need to cultivate the four types of power that we have, talked about. For example, in the beginning, we need to cultivate the power of aspiration, mebeto. Okay? And how do we get, interested in something? Is we have to think about the benefits and the profits and the gains of doing something, isn't it? So then we get interested in. So this is how we cultivate aspiration-seeking the positive outcomes. So once we have that aspiration, we engage in the practice, then in actual practice what we need are the powers of steadfastness, firmness, and the power of joy. Right? The steadfastness means once we started it, we are not going to drop the ball. We are going to continue, right? Be firm in your practice. The joyfulness is where we don't feel obligated. This is what I want to do, and this is beneficial, right? That sense, And as we engage in that, we know that once we are successful in completing our practice, then we must know how to relinquish that, the power of relinquishment, and move to the next one. Or maybe we are getting exhausted, right? Physically and mentally, we need to take a break. We need to rest, right? So all of these powers that we talked about, power of aspiration, power of steadfastness, power of joy, power of relinquishment are very important in our actual, practice. So the first level is like, maybe our challenges and the the obstacles are stronger than our antidotes, right? Which means we have to cultivate our antidotes' favorable conditions to bring them to the level of the intensity or the level of the obstacles, right? If the obstacles are too powerful, then they're going to overwhelm us. So we want to bring our antidotes to the level par with the obstacles. Okay, they're on the equal footing, Nobody's stronger than the other. Then the next one is that I want to intensify my antidotes, right, power, so that now my antidotes can overtake the obstacles and the unfavorable conditions, right? And that's the next kind of a strategy. So we have to think in a many different ways, skillfully. And again, a metaphor given here to demonstrate the whole message here is, we should kind of learn something from the kind of warfare tactics of a very seasoned warriors, the warriors who have fought many battles and they have survived it, And so what do? These warriors, when they go to the battle, it's like they use a two-pronged mindset strategy. Number one, they go to the battle that I don't want to get hurt by the weapons of my enemies. So they have to protect themselves, being hurt by the enemies. Number two, that's okay, not only that I don't want to get hurt, I want to defeat them. I want to be victorious over my enemies, right? So in the same way, we as practitioners have to think that way as we counteract our delusions and afflictive emotions, that number one, I have to protect my mind from being harmed or by the afflictive emotions, defeated by. Number two, I will, up my antidotes and practice level so that I can overcome the afflictive emotions, I can knock out, I can uproot the afflictive emotions, right? So we have to have the same mindset. I want to protect my mind from being harmed by the afflictive emotions. Number two, I want to attack. I want to launch attack and I want to defeat my enemy of afflictive emotions. So those things are important. And also another thing Geshe mentioned is this, that as we do our practice, we have to think very holistically, that we don't want to get too much focused on one set of practice and that might undermine the other practice. Let's say, we are too enthusiastic about cultivating the perfection of generosity, dan paramita, right? That's our way to go. But then we get so much kind of pigeonholed in this practice that we don't realize that being in this practice, we are undermining our practice of ethics, the perfection of ethics, And if that happens, then, when we think about the cost-benefit analysis, one cancels the other. Yes, we get a lot of merit from the generosity, then we undermine the ethics, so everything is minus, subtracted, so canceled, So we don't want to do that, right? As we do generosity practice, we want to maintain our ethical practice and other practices. So we have to think very holistically, very integrated way of practice, that all our practices are, thriving, so to speak.
我是听他的别句，但的听的别句呢，确实我的写吧，确实我的我那是那写过了吧，写的写吧，开解是那特殊可能的写的，他毕竟俺做说的，他别是在那个说是吧，他写下的那少少都写过是吧？写，他写呢，别个带写，他带的写那样俺接到他的家要嘛的，他至少那么多是要嘛了，是不是写做修是吧？ 都写的，他说这个特殊写的就，但是写的，他写不得，俺姐写的这些那过除了当时也骗不到啥了吧？我的这类似是吧？他可是写的，别家是不写的骗他们的写句家过来，我们过来是个写样，特别在那么些写那公园要嘛了，写的过什么的是看看的嘛的，过不给。 特别嘛些呢，你不等他写过嘛，是在搞我们那科学嘛是吧？或者天天是送的话的，而且他特殊那个亚麻这个是，俺在南京去特殊故事亚麻这个给这些嘛的，我他头大天天的话。
So towards the bottom of page 202, you find it stated there, as Geshe explained very clearly, that we have to really look at our practice holistically and do an integrated practice. And often as our lamas are very kind to advise us that we must, integrate study, contemplation, and meditation together. We should not divorce these three things from one another. I'm going to study. Well, then there's no contemplation. Well, I'm going to contemplate. Then there's nothing. I'm going to do meditation. This is like we are divorcing everything, separating, right? we have to really keep all of them in balance and integrative mode. So that's very important, and that's the bottom line. And as Geshe explained, that sometimes, maybe we give too much importance just to the study, because we said, in order to practice, I have to know. In order to know, I have to learn. I have to study. So maybe sometimes, maybe in the monasteries, perhaps sometimes we get too much carried about the study. I have to, cultivate the knowledge about things. So I started to know a lot. Then as you know a lot, the thing about the practice side, well, you become egomaniac, and, your knowledge is just kind of, shooting up your ego and the pride and the arrogance. And, well, that's defeating the whole purpose, isn't it? Yeah. So that means you really have to think about the contemplation and meditation. What I'm learning here is to put into practice to tame my mind, right? Not to let my ego filled up, and launched, But then some people say, what? Studying too much is not important. Whatever practice, a little bit, So then there's too much importance on, practice. Like, I'm into meditation, I'm all about practice, not study. Well, if you don't have enough knowledge about then what are you really meditating on? So you're stuck anyway. So again, as we said, if we overemphasize, one thing, study over practice, practice over study, we are going to miss a lot. So we have to maintain a holistic approach. We have to maintain a very integrative method to be able to pull together study, contemplation, and meditation.
뭐 디스고 다 거기 다 잠조를 제 있는 즉시 심지를 제위나 인지 공부하시나 다 페이저 있는 정심도 받아가 너무 시작하시더라 봐. 시다 뒤에 태워 마시나 정심 성장하세요. 자동 가세요. 그런 가세요. 뒤에 하면 것이 인도시 대샤위나 시다 자동 신고에 예지 신고 자는 남샤가 하고 뭐 봐. 시다 태워 마시나요. 정식으로 봐. 다 태워 제네 야, 대 녀석만 정지 간지 뒤니가 빵네 거지 소소 해봐지 에네 라드 랑토바 셔버리 세워라 다 라드 차장배 빼서나 힐랑마도는 거지 갔다 이제 뒤쳐려 세대로 당시 다 갈래질래 나도 지금 다 갈래질 누구 있어야죠 말에 어디로 저거 지러다
And so another example I want to give is that we many of us have gone for refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. We have generated the bodhicitta. We have received tantric empowerments. So which means we have bodhisattva commitments and tantric commitments, isn't it? So that's our practice. So if we don't educate ourselves about our commitments and practices, then we don't know what are we transgressing. We could be transgressing our bodhisattva commitments. We could be transgressing our tantric commitments because we're just oblivious to the whole thing. I have some practice. I don't know what it is. So I think I'm okay. But really, we are transgressing right and left, right? And that's a problem, isn't it? If we don't study, educate. But then on the other hand, if we kind of emphasize too much the study part and become very intellectual, we know stuff, But then we practice it, We practice just like, I want to know. I have to know something. Then it is not purposeful, isn't it? Because the whole purpose of studying Dharma is to be able to apply it to our mind and bring about inner transformation. So without practice, that won't happen. So you see the point I'm trying to make? So don't be sidetracked either just by the study or the practice. We have to pull them together. We have to bring them in harmony. We should not divorce them. Integrate them. And so as Geshe said, that of course when we say I'm going to practice, we don't necessarily mean that I'm going to practice everything ditto as it is said in the text. Yeah, that's tough, isn't it? But at least we will try, as we have a saying, I'm going to sincerely try, make an effort here, and then that'll make the difference, right? So then we will stop there today, and we welcome your questions and thoughts.
Geshe, thank you for your teachings. So sometimes it's very hard to know when you're stuck, when you're not stuck, when you're meditating correctly, not correctly. So what's your recommendation? Should we consult with our guru? How should we practice overcoming obstacles.
Kurang kan shwe de dire ge da tan da di ro wa ge da nyam le ngu shi che yin de ga ro wa da kong re cha ya ba cha sha na ro wa ge
아리
sa so so kom na le ya kom che de ga le ya da kom ki ne za da ma so na kang ge de che ge ro wa ge
맞아
and che ba di na da de ne ko kang ge de che de ye za da ga so meeting be ge jen che da da ga rang ge ga chen che ro wa ge ya ge du go yo ma ro wa
아리
so dinde ki kang ge che de ga ga che ko re sa da ka lu na lo na sa dinde yin ba ne so so ke gen le ya chen che ka lu shu go yo re da ga che ko tab lam ro ro wa ge kom ge je da ko de ga de ro wa ge
아리 다 될 되시고 다 빼는 녀봉이야 저거 아니로야 저거 아니 로nye 망도 저거 다 되게 망보 연구하러 와다 거진 게제 망보 와요 와
no
근데 온도 다 당기 되게 삼어동 거다 배 로브조 마시나 아니 배 니모 전신 아니 디지털 폰줘야다 로브조 쉐와 요봐 로브조 쉐베 있는 디 리브텔에 비게 어느 리브 유미 태좀매 봐 권에 자다 요봐 어 당기 디 페용된 이미 되게 삼어동 어 삼어동야 뒤에 당고 그래 시다 그래 다시는 하장이 저 배시다시오는 공정거리는 알리 랑지 로네야 배 사토산 저벌 신 셈야 그 생되는 야고 시그스도 와
no
어다 디레 양 최모 투면에 양 디레 군조 연내도 어디 페용즈 삼내에 셈야 때 상도고 와
no so
어 데레 다 간지 유진 되게 상고 다번 니르 비고는 자 감동 동시 니르 쇼고 있는 엔 어디 삼어 아직 다가 가르스다 소소서 에네 베다 니로 디레 치여도 자는 말 다다버리 참는 데가 배 등엘마다 대겨 다다 치여도 제 드드데 약보좀 레 인자 인디서 에너지 시야시다 단도 니 온데 단데 자는 그 말이 있음 이제 섬기도 있네요 세바 상야 여러 어 디서데 거제 배서 코란데 예번나히 페용다 예믹되게 건지 삼고 그랬다
So in a general sense, of course, when we say we are doing our practice meditation, we get stuck, right? There could be any number for different reasons or obstacles. And so if we know the kind of antidotes to those things, then we have to apply it. For example, the example Geshe gave is oftentimes, kind of a laziness creeps in and, you know what, yeah, I think I should take a nap, something. So things like that, then we have to think about, how this is such a rare kind of opportunity and fortunes we have found, right? And we think about the qualities of the Buddhas or the enlightened beings, gurus, and then inspire us, And if, let's say, if a sleepy head is our problem, maybe we have to get up and, take a shower or take a walk or whatever we need to do, right? Because we know what needs to be done. But if we are stuck in our practice because of our lack of understanding or whatever case may be, then we have to read or study, right, about the things or asking questions, whatever the case may be. So it depends, what kind of challenges or difficulties we face in our practice that we're getting stuck, We can't let it be, We just have to do what is, needed. And as Geshe said, like oftentimes, things will happen to us, like we are doing our sadhana practice, right? It's kind of like now, we're tired and sleepiness creeps in. And then we just kind of have to jerk us up. You know what? Well, this is really not, serving any purpose at all, right? Just, falling asleep in our practice. So we say, you know what? Okay, I really think about the fully endowed human form, right? So how difficult it is to find this kind of life, how greatly meaningful this is, and the great opportunity we have, this lifetime to do practice. So think about those things and kind of wake up or, inspire ourselves. So those things are important.
어디 지도 다 삼는 원에 당에 대처고 저 쌤도 비게 걸사 이다 녀벽이 배 쌤마 팡마버려야 지게 영야 팡터는 비 미팅고에서 지금 가자가서 쌤줘야 발제도 용단이 용거로 와 세다 단다데 쌤 마버시 단다 바 쇼음데버서 니다 저이나 어디데다 에네 식구조 연대 상지 연대다 간지 상지에서 연대다 간지 배 약사 사모동 거기도 와 약사 사모단은 쌤디야 대 토르도 그래서도 와 다 미팅고에 니는 자와도 뭐 제 증원나 야 예외 동에서 동에도 렌데 쌤 그랬어 다들 렌데 쌤 렌데 거를 이제 오늘 연대 쌤디야 상토다 그러 쌤도 그러다 도 대자는 인소지 오늘 저상 그게 대도 렌데들 이제 연나 인 콜람사 대사마단 람사 셈디 진조토야 샤그라와.
No.
어디시 그랬어. 지동신.
No. In a general sense, we face, two types of challenges, if we would put them that way. The number one is, our mind is disheartened, for whatever reason, laziness, sleepiness, all of that thing. So in that kind of case, as our gurus tell us, that we need to think about something positive to inspire ourselves, to encourage ourselves. So that's why we think about the qualities of the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas and their greatness, all of that. So that will inspire us. But other times our challenge is that our mind is too excited. And Geshe didn't use that term, but maybe I will use that. The monkey mind, it's so jumpy and it's so busy churning thoughts about everything and anything and nothing. So mind is just crazy thinking. So that challenge, as our Lama said, that then we really have to think about the suffering of samsara. And the suffering of the bad migrations. If we let our mind think about every weirdest thoughts and negativity, whatever, then think about the consequences of this thinking. This could lead us to the bad migrations and much more suffering. So that way, the excited mind can calm down, bring it down. Or that if we have kind of developed what we call the faith and understanding of the law of karma, so we think about the infallible working of law of karma and result. And then that will help us to calm down the excited mind or the monkey mind,
어디 제가 그 사모단은 렌제 사모단 예바 요나 이 년송 동el 현아지라. 그래서 현아지인데 좀다 거타비시아 태운 거라. 딱다래 거디.
Let's say if our thought is too much about the mundane thinking and all kinds of thoughts, then we think about the possibility of, being reborn in the bad migrations next time, right? And then that kind of develops this positive sense of fear, like, oh my God, I don't want to get there, I already have enough problem here as a human being. Now getting there doesn't seem like a pretty for me. I don't want to go there. So then that kind of thinking will help us to bring the mind home, so to speak, the distracted mind, the excited mind overly, calm it down. Any other questions?
Thank you very much for your teaching today. My question is, as a new couple, also new to the Tibetan tradition of Buddhism, how would you suggest is a good way to begin our practice and our knowledge together as a new couple in our home, and to make sure there's a balance? Thank you.
Quran kan shwe de diresha da din Quran sazani di da pebe nangjolia thomaro chin sa ba che ta ane ta sazan pebe nangjo le ya saba tona yugen ro ba gen chi ge nang la yin de ta ji da pebe nangjo ko la da lob jo yin nyamlen che ro ba ko chu wen kan de che ko re sa ro ta kan sena chojine ge mizi ge ro ba gen ya chojine chue che ro ba da ni ga lo ko ji ke tumbu ro ro ba gen ja de de kalop na ro na
알레 다 능고 쉬어야지 찍디
다 지는 저기 미세계고 그러바게 다 최최고 거래 다 미세계고 거야 지금 그러바게 저절로 롱상 딩 말봐야 다 코나서 사바르도 와서 사
네네
롭존 체다 냠내 체 간데 좋을사
되게 다 디커 능고 쉬어를 비시나 다 당고 능고 쉬어 니지 롭 지하를 거 렌데 솔 다 상로 동거 다 당고 들어와 다 렌데 또 상로데 다 델다 다다 렌데 해야다 능고 쉬어야돼서 페이지를 영지 뭐가 쉬우세요 될 말을 받고 그도 계좌에는 야 라도야도 라도야 이거 넌 조사라 그러 어디라게 들어서는 애는 쉬어다 내가 가서 미래기다니데 페이지 예고 말되대 그러 쉬어시세도 이집에 양배 땡인지 공부야 영어로 와 간지서 섬야 뭐시 멜페페 네바지야 나왔다 이 여기시야 나왔다 어디데 미게 주부 들고 삼로 강도서 멜 페마다는 네시바데 양양 잼네 근데 또 이소 데베코데 데베세사세 하죠 말에 또 너샤나 Any called Thomas Tombo the Kitoya or the inside del Gibushi, it's him say similar than Zotoya Ravasha or usually be Legazda Shan shoot Shiguayomara.
No. What Geshe wants to say is this that maybe we think about the what we call karmic actions and consequences. Maybe at a very basic level, that's where it begins. So when we because that is based on rationality. Right, do good, have good, do bad, have bad, right? We are not saying that, just is all based on some kind of blind faith. We can witness the outcomes of different actions, karmic. So at home, how do we balance between leading the life and the Dharma is, the Dharma, in a sense, is, how we think about things, If we can cultivate sort of the mindset that at least I'm not going to do anything that's going to be harmful to myself or others, right? Not harming others. So that is mindset is Dharma practice, right? And that thinking goes along with whatever work we have to do for a living, And then on top of that, if we think that, in whatever way I can benefit and help others, right? I'm going to so thinking, kind thoughts and not wanting to harm others. I think that's the kind of basic level, And this is where often in the Buddhist context we talk about, the basic ethics of, not to kill, not to steal, not to lie. Those, actions of body, speech, and mind. So if we can do that much, at least I think, of course, just simply doing that much is not going to lead us to the Buddhahood, but at least it will keep us happy here, and this will also have positive outcomes in our next life. So I think thinking about the law of karmic action and consequences, is where it begins.
So that yogi Samsu Mishia, any hand never misses what the Yaganga, legally go Yamdo Joshua, because Yamdo Dom, go government. Tatana young Kunjo, Tevato, sugar, some of them, the Indians, some of them, legally. Some of them legal literature, some of them are Maro. The Kadi and Roja in the Kadi in the Kito.
So Geshe is kind of emphasizing here the aspect of the Dharma where we can integrate it with our everyday life, whatever we need to do. And because sometimes people think, okay, practice means, okay, I have to meditate, I have to go somewhere, I have to do retreat. But that is another aspect, But really what we is like in our everyday life, whatever our profession, if we kind of in our mind make a commitment that I'm going to be honest, I'm not going to deceive and cheat others, right? I'm not going to be manipulative and all of that. That is a practice, and that we can do in any profession we have, right? That I don't want to cheat anybody else. I want to be honest in dealing with others, and I don't want to think unkind about other people, right? And if possible, I want to think kindly about others. So those thinking and thoughts we can always integrate in our whatever we are doing, sitting, sleeping, standing, walking, so we can do that. Any other thoughts? Oh, yeah. Yeah, could give mic to Jim. Yeah.
Regarding resting the mind.
Right.
I understand that it would be optimal to think about the good qualities of the Buddhas or whatever, but for me as a beginner, if my mind is, like I've been practicing, my mind's really exhausted, to do that is actually just another practice, right? It's still more contemplative effort. So I'm wondering, are there any methods or techniques to really rest the mind when your mind is like you've been practicing or studying, your mind's like really tight and you're exhausted, and you kind of need to let it open up.
Sure. Tanda kora kandi shwe di de kin ta ta kin nganzu sem di ka so ro chida nyam ma mo thang che ba ta si dang che ba kalin ne ro ge chi de kin da samratan chi de ta sangya lo so be yuen den chen ko so ba ge se zam zam lo sem kora pet kora thang che da ko lo chi nyop de ka sangya yuen den chen ko lo da ka le ga thyo ba ro ro ge ko nyam len thyo ba che ko ngor cha de ro ge chi de ko ar mi be thang che de ya sangya yuen den chen ko do be de sam lo thyo ba stang ko ro ge ko gi ya sem pang 토로 당해서도 고라고라로 하게 강해서
그래.
네 멤버 삼로 가라 당해서 다고 샘 시스 탄체대로 하게
그래.
nhập nhập 사이언스 내면도 샘팡도 해서대로 와
어레.
나.
어레.
삼로 당해서 담만다 샴바드는
다 때문에 소다서 다 들에 소모 녀업스나 쪼부 사모스고 다 냐마우 사모스지로 또 녀우야스는데 다 니그 소디 말에
다 인삼 다게 니가로스로 하게 샘지다 nhập 다 팡도 지역송세나
어디래 다 되게 단단히 당기셔야 돼 그래서 샘 펑하고 써야 돼요 다 단단히 그래서 녀업네 다베 찍으시면 되는 서지고라 다 드레스 상에 상도 말쓰고래
당체비나 로바
어디
샘시 당체 엔 가제메 산제기 게 삼로 담아 산제 유대로 잘로 옵션 데스 고고로 하게 막 상다에서 말로서 버디
레레 다 대신에 비당 다 상제요 다 대치고 다 지도 강가 옆에나 소소 내당 샤라 삼도는 리고 다 베데 맨도 나자이나 소소를 셴버 쩌보 몽보 내바다 되네 벤조 가제샤 쩌보 몽보 여러와 디레 내당 샤는 시시는 소소 되네 얘네 소소 베키라 토여와 디데 삼도는 리고로 가지 간도 심 다다 nhập 쪄디 심야 파온 거로 가와도 째야 여러 어디 뜻사도 시를 딱베 나 깔레가 냥다 시비 레갈리직 상도쟁어 되게 가야 말했다 깔레 장기 매 기부들에 아니 되게 인세디 장기 되게 알았어 나 레가도 때 셴다 냥 되게 셴 녀야면 도 서야서
야 소소게 와래 체스 이란시네 팽메로
어디 섬 펜도 그러
노소
어디 다 가도 셴나 당한테 쉐케를 계속 매지 가도 거 드디어 섬도다네 섬 소소 끼들어 여러
노소
rồi ta bây giờ sẽ ra mẹ rồi gì nè ta bây giờ càng ngày tiền dùng nè nó bang có được dùng xong một ta til tin số giàu gì đấy rồi và til xong một ta này á số gawa được cũng hay rồi và til số đi ta tung hay rồi ta
so Geshe said of course if a couple of things if our mind is kind of fatigued or exhausted we just need a rest I mean, in such a case, thinking about Buddha perhaps may not, because maybe you need to take a shower or walk or take a rest or whatever case may be. Let's say if our mind is disheartened, right, things. Another way is like we don't have to necessarily think about Buddhas and Bodhisattvas qualities, but you can also think about your own good fortunes, that, we can do sort of a comparison between yourself and others, and then you think about in what ways you're also fortunate. That you rejoice in your own positive actions that will inspire you. So he said it doesn't have to think about Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, but you can think about your own fortunes and favorable conditions and do a comparative thinking. I said, rejoice in the good things you have done, sort of boost up your merit, but also acknowledge that I still need to do more, right? I just cannot just simply be complacent about my accomplishment, but have to move forward. Maybe that might help,
I guess I'm not talking about being disheartened. I'm talking about running out of neurotransmitters to keep thinking, right? Yeah. The effort to conceptualize anything, it's just going to make my mind tighter and tighter.
Right.
So is there some method that doesn't involve conceptualizing that allows my mind to relax rather than continuing conceptualizing something.
가서 올해 샘톤 다 튕겨 고부 시비잖아게 말고 저비에 튕겨로 와게 진짜 다 나도 삼로 당 거야 뭐 전다 보다 좀 먼저 저비에 튕겨로 와게 제가 다디 베셈데 마테 시르로 있어도 와게 가르쳐요 그래서 내가 삼로 뇌배 당한다는 게 다 삼로 거라 칸도 와게 다디 삼로 다 먹어 제 와게 샘데스 마 시르로 가르쳐
다 될 지당도 전에 되세요 다 나도 옥중고 공세야 되더라 다 옥중고 거야 돼 남도 방법이야 옥중고 공부로 와 다 디레면 단단한데 다 쉬을 배 나고 갈라 간 주요 그저 그 연대다 그래서 펜터나 이제 뭐 요거 공부해 보세요 말이야 다 그 메대고 되는 게 지고 왜
어디는 나 삼로 퇴바다 먹어제 다 삼로 걸 마시고
다 디시도 다 들려고 다길 세야 나신게 렌델 상도 다 렌델 상도 돼 인수 딕바도 니마질 기와 가지 딕바 가지 셔야다 이 딕바시네 이 리부드 가와도 어디 섬노다 예와시네 가려도 되나 이니 년송도야게 그게 가르쳐 삼로지 호걸 말해 어디 년송도 삼로지 호는 년송 동해시버 디체는 지바시기라 직바디 째서는 이네 셴네가 가르사 군조 잡스줘야다 텔레 탑히도 상도 거고 말해. 거기로 와. 디시는 디거다. 디동에 가진 직슈 다 직슈도 다기 메제 그래데 셈디게 라그로 와. 그러와. 다기다 가야 돼야만 야동 가지 살데는 섬도에서 가야 말와. 다다 디저산에 배 아우다 뭐니 영화 들데 이시데 뺏어 그래 상마서 시나. 이거 셈디 그런 찍 가서 구조도 세기도 와. 어디 세드산다 이니피게 잠러시아도다 이니질랑도 주가 상호스코도 그러. 탑지식으로. 그래서 강에 세드산 수에나 강에 들이야 세야 탑지를 시고 말해. 어디 시켜거라.
So Geshe said two things here. I mean, one thing is, if our mind is overly busy with thoughts, thinking, right? So you're saying like, I don't want to do another thinking because mine's already, what can calm down our mind? So this is where, at the basic level, often we talk about just focusing on the cycle of breathing. If we sort of just focus on breathing in and breathing out, as basic as it is, it will help us to calm down the mind. We're not thinking any other thoughts. We're just simply, letting go. But for somebody who has studied Buddhism for a while, practicing, you don't necessarily have to do that. Perhaps another way is you can refocus all this crazy thinking into one set of thinking. Let's say you can think about, in a kind of relaxed way, about the positive and negative karmas and the consequences, so that all other thoughts, kind of dissipate because you just rechannel and refocus on just only one thinking. So maybe those things works out, Any other thoughts? All right, if not, we will do our dedication prayers. For our new friends here, we first do some dedication in Tibetan. We do the Manjushri prayer and the long life of one of our great teachers, Song Rinpoche, and then followed by English and followed by Vietnamese chanting. Kange lo de dimye dinde nyinda namda rabze chenye de jeje seje nije toga lebam ze kanda sebe zara mare mendon donge yeze dozo kela boje daze yala roje yande roda jero nyemo nyelo leje charo jeze Maria Muse Donge Nyowo Chinye Chenze Radi Nam Dene Daje Saju Daze Yende Lazo Yeze Tuye Gu Jura Juda Junyi Genje Dalu Muse Jambe Yanglo Andu Marabazana Omara Baza Na De Zende Cheje Kera Vese Dalu Temo Memba Kada Deje Yolo Doba Ye Loje Povena Zendo Zo Loje Gyaze Udon Bega De Gesan Pove Chido Memba Temba Zenla Wando Kisho Be Chanye Shogun Chala Sowan Page 21. Obeisance to my Guru and Protector Manjushri, who holds at his heart a scriptural text, symbolic of his seeing all things as they are, whose intelligence shines forth as the sun, unclouded by delusions or traces of ignorance, who teaches in 60 ways with the loving compassion of Father for his only Son, all creatures caught in the prison of samsara, confused in the darkness of their ignorance, overwhelmed by their suffering. You whose dragon thunder-like proclamation of Dharma arouses us from the stupor of our delusions and free us from the iron chains of our karma, who wields the sword of wisdom, hewing down suffering wherever sprouts appear, clearing away the darkness of ignorance. You who have been pure from the beginning, who have completed the stages achieving the highest perfection of a bodhisattva, whose princely body is adorned with 112 marks of a Buddha, I bow down to you, Manjushri, Om Arabasa Nadi. O compassionate one, with the brilliance of your wisdom, illuminate the darkness enclosing my mind. Enlighten my intelligence and wisdom so that I may gain insight into Buddha's words and the texts that explain them. Page 31. Like the sweet perfume of white lotus, born in the ocean of knowledge, nourishing honeybees, the fortunate beings, your fame pervades all directions. You are proficient and powerful in upholding the precious doctrine. To you, O Lobsang Tenzing Wangda, respectfully I pray.
Đức Văn Thù Sư Lợi, bậc đại trí, Ngài đều phục hai chướng ngại, tựa nhật quang lan tỏa khắp mười phương, bậc thực chứng chân nghĩa màu rốt ráo, từ tiêm Ngài bát nhã kinh thủ hộ nhiệm màu, cõi luân hồi chúng sanh thọ nghiệp báu, bị ngăn che bởi phiền não vô minh, sở hữu 60 pháp âm thù thắng, cùng đại bi Ngài hóa độ chúng sanh, tựa từ mẫu chăm lo cho quý tử. Tiếng rồng vang Ngài thức tỉnh hữu tình, thoát khỏi vòng luân hồi nghiệp báu, gươm trí tuệ Ngài chặt đứt vô minh, tận diệt muôn vàn khổ đau cùng ách nạn, trường tử Như Lai tối thắng toàn giác, Ngài an trụ nơi thập địa pháp vân, báu thân Ngài trang nghiêm thanh tịnh. Đây đầu đảnh lễ Đức Văn Thù Sư Lợi, cúi xin Ngài tận diệt ám chướng vô minh. Om Arapasanati, con khẩn cầu dưới gót sen bậc đại trí, ban pháp lực diệt phiền não vô minh, được trí sáng con thâm nhập nghĩa màu, pháp vi diệu cùng muôn vàn luận giải. Như diệu hương ngọt ngào từ sen trắng, đàn xanh nơi trí thù thắng đại dương, hàng thiện căn như ong mật thọ nương, hồng danh Ngài khắp mười phương quảng bá, đấng thiện xảo uy dũng bảo tồn pháp bảo vô giá. Nam mô Lobsang Tenzin Wangdak, xin cung kính trì niệm.
Chanjo senjo rinpo je ma je pa nan je jo ye ba nyang ba me ba yang gong ne gong pe wa jo tong ni da wa rinpo je ma je pa nan je nyang ba me ba yang gong ne gong pe wa sa xian bei jian zhu xian bei duo zhao ri ra lin xian yin de yan ba san ye xin duo min de vi wa yin zhou gu xian ba yin zhou kan ri ra vi hu vi xin gang de pen dan de wa ma lin zhong bei 现在是王天津讲座，下边7点8度，天就人日，一当古如然那满天拉个尼样大爷。